Hi there, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. If you're new here, I'm Catherine, and I'm working on a couple of older books that I'm doing a self-challenge. I am challenging myself to create 2 journals and use one book to create any ephemera that's going to go into these journals. And I have some work to get done on the covers of both of them. I always work on the covers first when I make a journal because if I make an error and ruin it, I don't have oftentimes hundreds of pages cut in the wrong size for any other book that I happen to make. So I get the covers done, then I know the covers are good and are going to work well, and then I can go ahead and create create my text block. If I were making a cover myself from scratch, it doesn't matter when you make the cover. You could get your text block ready, then do your measurements and make just the right size. And that's a really nice option. But in my case, my favorite books are made from old, vintage, antique, or unusual books. So, and in this case, this book was from 1948, and this book, I forget, did we say 37? Let me take a look, see. 1929. So my little mom was 2 years old when this book was printed. Now, one moment, I lost something. Okay, so I got some work done. You're familiar with this. Nothing much has changed since the last time we got together when I worked on the Red Edith book. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. If you saw the before and afters, the biggest change is that this spine was sort of a pinky orange from sun damage from being on a bookshelf for almost 100 years. And that'll happen. I've got sun damage, and I've only been here 63 years. And I'm really happy with this. We still have a book plate to put on it. Hopefully we will get to that today. And then I did some work yesterday on the green Edith. And I think they're going to work out about the same, because although this one has a larger spine, 2 inches, this one has a smaller spine but larger surface area. And I think in terms of journaling space, they're probably going to work out about similar. Now, I'm really, really happy with how this spine turned out, and I apologize ahead of time for the, let's see if I can pull this up any further up. This is a really big book, so to fit it full screen is a real challenge. But I'm really happy with this spine. It's a little different from our red one, but just enough similarity that they're sisters. They're definitely sisters. It's almost like Edith and Evelyn. Very similar, lovely ladies. And I used the labels from my new favorite label book. I loved the botanical labels. On this botanical label, I wanted it because the lines around the edge were black, and I just wanted that. But I didn't like what was on it. It had half a bug, because obviously it was the label from a bug specimen at one point, or whoever the artist was, if it's created it to look like it had half of a bug specimen. And I didn't want the bug specimen, even though Edith drew and painted bugs in her during the course of her lifetime. So I had a few things I wanted to achieve. I needed to reinforce the head and the foot. They were falling apart because of, I think it was two things that played into it. 1948 book, just coming out of the war, materials were still in scarcity because they had been used for the war purposes. So books weren't always the best quality papers, the best quality book cloths, the best quality glues, that sort of thing. Plus, I have a feeling that the person who owned this book used it a lot because it actually is a really good book and quite clear. The diagrams are so nice inside it. And it was called The Complete Book of Garden Magic. And I still wanted to be able to see most of that title. So I put this botanical label down a little bit lower so that you could see most of the old title. But I wanted to imagine that maybe Edith or maybe this one's Evelyn's book. That they just wanted to slap their label on so that they knew which book this was that they were presently working out of. So what I did in order to cover up the half of a bug was, this was another label out of that book, and it says 1911 Bird Notes, and then I can't make out what it says underneath there. But I liked it. I purposefully put it a little crooked because I'm imagining that the book was full and maybe she was trying to stick it on while it was still upright and full, and so this is crooked on purpose. And then I also wanted the Edith signature down here because the book is the biography of Edith Holden. So, and I don't have any signatures of Evelyn Holden. So in order to make this one a little different than simply how I did, this was just very simple. I just simply glued it on. I used gloss, Liquitex gloss gel medium to protect it on the outside. So I did the same thing. I glossed this one, but then I wanted it to look slightly different. So I made some faux cellophane tape and then again, purposefully did it slightly a little wonky so that again, it just looks like it was. When you're in your own studio and you have your own workbooks, you aren't always necessarily fastidiously perfect, especially with notebooks and sketchbooks. And if actual working artists will go through scads of sketchbooks, and they'll write the dates, the day they put the first sketch in and the day they finished filling the book on their spines. And although I haven't done that in this case, because I want to be able to leave that up to the new owner with the book plate itself on the cover, we're using a little artistic license here. So I wanted to put the painting, the beautiful countryside painting that Edith made and gave to her friend Bella. I've heard her refer to her in both terms in the book itself. So I tried a few things. I tried several different kinds of mats to put behind the painting. I tried I should have been more ready, and of course I'm not, and it's not here. wonder where I put it. Yeah, it's gone. I got some really lovely gold colored paper, and I backed it and everything because I thought this is going to be it. I'm going to double mat it. I'm going to lay the painting on top of this beautiful old gold paper. And I didn't like it. So then I thought, well, maybe if I wrinkled up some Amazon packing paper and put that behind it. Maybe that would look cool. And I didn't like it. And then, of course, I thought, well, what about, I have this glassine paper that I was playing with once with Mod Podge. And I thought that might look cool. Put that in behind. And I didn't like that either. I hunted through my stacks of papers to find what little vellum I have, because I loved what Anna from Made by Grenath, the journal that I purchased from her, what she did on the cover of Prosperine. And she had matted it. She had double matted it behind the painting. And the bottom mat is vellum. And I thought, oh, maybe I could put a little vellum behind it. And I didn't like that either. It felt like it was fighting with this painting. And I finally came up with what I am enjoying, and that was tea-dyed and crinkled up cheesecloth. So I glued that on, and I did some little brads on there, and I really, really love that. I think, well, as soon as I saw that, I thought, that's it. That's what I wanted. I think that's really, really pretty. And then I even toyed a little bit with double layering it, and putting, maybe if I inked this up, or inked it and then Mod Podged it and made it look like leather. And that felt like it was too much. And then I thought, well, what about the glassine? What about putting it behind it? And again, it just felt like putting too much behind it started distracting from this very pretty painting and looking at what's going on over here instead. So I'm going to stop while I'm ahead of things. Now, with this book in particular, I love the original end papers, and I want to be able to save them as best I can. You can see here I have fortified these, the hinges, because you could literally see right through them if I held them up to a window. They were just ghosts. It was like the Shroud of Turin of journals. So I have been getting more comfortable with using contractor's tape, masking tape, for hinges, to reinforce hinges. But in this case, there was so little fabric left. I really felt like this needed fabric to reinforce these hinges and not tape. So that's when I used this fabric, which I have scads of. And it really is almost like, it's the same weight, and I would dare say weave count of cheesecloth, but it's obviously some kind of fabric that was meant for something else, because it has a bit of a pattern on it. So I don't know whether it was originally meant to make sheer curtains out of, or it's always a mystery, because I get my supplies from what I can scrounge around at thrift stores. So I use this all the time when I'm reinforcing hinges on covers. So I really only have to be able to cover up this little bit and show these. So that played into how I will put these on because normally I would put the brads right through the cover. And in this case, with the red book, I just didn't like the brads. So this painting is staying as is, but I will be using brads to put the book plate on, which of course now I found it. The book plate will be going on, and I will be punching brads right through the book, and I will be putting new end papers in here. But I like these plain end papers, and I do think I want to find some paper of a similar color. I was hoping to use, if there were any blank papers in the text block, just use those and lay them back down, but I couldn't find any in the book. They all had printing on them, and many of them weren't even the right size, because this book was really, really oddly, it was poorly bound together. The pages were, none of them were the same size. And again, who knows, that was after the First World War, so maybe again materials were expensive. Hard to say why the book was in such bizarre condition, but so we'll be doing this, and I have a little journaling plate that can go in there. So for the time being, it's being called Edith's All Sorts book. And it will, once it's in place, it will look like that. How cute. The nice thing is, if you don't want that, flip it over and write your own title on it, or flip it over again and write your own title there, or your own title there. You got 3 more chances to retitle your book if you don't want it called an Edith's All Sorts book. So in this case, again, because I don't want to put brads right through the cover, but I want a book plate on the cover. A way to get around that when you have a cool book plate, and this one's really cool, and I've already got it ready to go, so I'm going to explain to you what I did and why I did it. This book plate was actually shiny yellow gold, exactly like this shiny yellow brand new gold, which of course I didn't want. And this soaked in a bath overnight of our favorite solution of peroxide, vinegar, and salt. And that was the end result. And I sealed it with clear nail polish, and I'm in love. I mean, I'm just in love. The little oval one that I was thinking of using turned out really, really nice as well. But I don't see how, with the little oval one, where there is enough room to be able to change out the title of the book, that this book would have to be named and left that name, and I didn't want to have to do that. So by putting the metal plate onto, it had dust on it, onto something that's gluable, because I find that metal glued to book covers, it holds for a while and then it pops off. One day you'll find, where'd my book plate go? And it's laying somewhere. They just pop off. And whereas paper to book cloth will hold, or cloth to book cloth will hold. These will hold. This will hold. This will hold when I glue it down. So by using the brads to hold it securely to this paper, and then gluing the paper to the book cloth, this is going to hold nicely. Now you can use cloth I've done cloth before. This isn't the right size, but put your imagination hat on and pretend it's pure white. I could have put, and pretend this one's square, I could have put it onto the fabric, used my brads so that it's really secure to the fabric, not going anywhere, and then glue the fabric to the cover. And then again, that will hold because what's being adhered is fabric to fabric. So I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do this morning now is glue our painting on, and we're going to glue our book plate on, and I made one for it. This one is slightly smaller than the book plate that's going on the red journal, so I had to make the printing a little bit smaller, but it still looks really cool, and it still says Edith's All Sorts book. Hold on, let's move you up a little bit. There we go. And again, same thing. You don't want to call your journal, if you end up with this journal, if you look at it when it's all done and say, that's the book for me, pull it out, flip it around, and name this book whatever you want to name it. My journal. That's not Edith's journal. It's my journal. Then put your own name on it. Or put the dates that you worked in it on it. What I used was coffee dyed ledger paper behind it. And, oh, I'm not going to take it out now. But then I wanted it even grungier, so I used the corner of scissors and beat the daylights out of it. I tore it up a bit. I inked it on both sides and curled that back. I'm not going to glue it down flat. I really want it to look like a nasty mess. This book, the green one, is going to be a little grungier than the red one. I have this feeling. So I think one will be a little more delicate and lovely, and one's going to be more like a field notes, perhaps. I guess we'll see. So let's get to work. Glue. I'm going to eyeball all of this for the most part. What I will do is lay my ruler across the top. I'm going to tilt my... So see how I've got my ruler up here? That will give me an idea. This cover is 7.5 inches wide, which means 3 1/4. So pretty well close to where 21 is the center of this cover. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I lay down this painting, this illustration of a painting, and I'm going to aim for that to be the center, and I'm going to eyeball that I have it mostly centered. It's not that important. It's not important enough to me to start measuring and penciling in and so forth. So I used 3-in-1 to glue the cheesecloth onto the back of this, which is on chipboard. I have a little wiggle room because if it wants to try and blop out, I've got the cheesecloth there that will camouflage. So that's nice. That's a little bonus. Let me turn my camera back down here. I did a whole video yesterday, and I moved the camera at one point because I taped all of this. All this work I did, I recorded it, and I realized afterwards when I was watching it prior to uploading it that I had moved the camera to show you something, and then failed to move the camera back and went back to work in my regular spot. And you couldn't see a single thing that I was doing while I was chattering away. Okay, I think that's good. The nice thing about cheesecloth is it's so thin that when I press down on this, it will soak through the cheesecloth to the chipboard, and it will also adhere to the book. So I'm going to move that over. I've got a little bit of time on my side. It's not like with art glitter glue when you have to really move it, move it, move it. There we go. All right. Let's turn this over. I'm going to aim for that 21. I want it about, I'm going to stand up. I want it about an inch down. And about centered. About there. I like it. And then I'm going to look. I may pause and move. Okay, we're good. I want to make sure this is all out and none of it has been caught underneath. Give it a good push down. And that will hold really well. And if in 50 years it pops off, whoever the owner is 50 years from now can glue it back on. But with the metal, trying to glue metal to it, it could pop off while you're carrying it somewhere and you've lost your book plate and it doesn't look nice. I'm going to put this aside while we work on the red one so it can dry a bit. I'm going to put a weight on it. So I've been using the architecture book, fits it perfectly, and a rock. There's my rock, a rock. My bricks somehow ended up underneath my laptop right here. And and when I've needed a brick, I've been resorting to my rocks once again. So thank goodness for rocks. Oh, don't tell me. 22 minutes. 27 minutes. Where does the time fly? No, I think I... Really? We can do this. We can do this. Okay, gardener's kneeling pad. I get them at my dollar store. I've had this one for years, as you can tell by the holes in it. We'll do a part B today, and I'll get the other... I'll get this one on the green book. So with this book, here's something to keep in mind that I learned the difficult way. I think I learned it with Mr. Snooks. I loved that book. That's amongst my top 5 favorite journals that I've ever made, Mr. Snooks. You need to leave yourself enough room if you want to be able to remove this. And if I put that there, it's going to be really hard to get your... doable, but hard. So you want to leave yourself a bit of room if you've got a thick dimensional piece of artwork or such above it. So this is not quite 4 inches. It's 3 7/8. So if we move this over, that makes 2 the center. Right? Of course, right. So that's approximately going to be, but I want it a bit higher. I want to put this in behind so I get a better look at it. I'm going to stand up and look at it. and see if I'm happy with this. And I am. And I'm happy, I think, with how far away. Ah, don't move on me. I could use painter's tape, so don't rule that out. There, I like that. All right, so what I'm going to do now is the scariest part. Find the center, push it right through, and give it a good wiggle. Find the center. Oh, you know what else I do? Let me do it in case you're nervous and you haven't done this before on a book. I put a pin through it and hold that in place in case it moved. Say you sneezed or something, or you suddenly heard a crash downstairs. And then push through and give it a good wiggle. And then you're good to go. And if you need to move it, you can. You're going to have to, because you're going to, your next step is going to be to shave down these, those volcanoes, the paper volcanoes, which I use my knife that my son-in-law made for me. And I just slowly shave that off because there's going to be new end papers anyhow. There's no point pushing them back in. You know how we do it when we're sewing and we push it back in? There's no point. These are too big, too heavy, and it would just refill your hole. Cardstock, there's just too much of it that has come back out through that hole. So be sure and just remove it. Your end paper will lie nicer. Always push your knife away from you and not towards you or towards the hand that's holding your book securely. So move the angle of your book so that your knife is going away from you for your own safety, and so that you can enjoy a few weeks of crafting that normally would be taken up while your stitches heal. Learned that one the hard way too in high school, doing line-a-cut printing. Don't line-a-cut print and have your knife towards you. There we go. So that's flat, beautiful. And brads. This is one of the things that I have to buy new. I seldom find the book plates that I like at thrift stores. So it's one of those things that at the very least I watch for when they're on sale. And then once the wings are opened up on the other side, that book plate is not going anywhere. You can still put a nice, if you wanted to mat it underneath, that looks really nice. And feel free to go ahead, and you could still glue it if you felt like it. But that's good to go. I'm going to end it here because we're at 34 minutes, but I will have a part B because we will get the other one done today as well. So I will see you in a few minutes. And if you're still here, please hit the like down below for me and help pay for my 3-in-1. Thanks. I'll see you in a few minutes.